We're finally less than a month away from a highly anticipated bout in the women's strawweight class for the UFC. Rose Namajunas versus Weili Zhang fighting for the belt. It seems like it's been forever, and it really has been since Weili has been dealing with travel issues, hasn't been able to get back and fight. This is going to be her first fight since that war with, Joanna Jedrzejczyk that just got all of our votes for fight of the year last year before all of the COVID craziness. It's a very big fight. A lot of people have gone back and forth in terms of who they think is going to win. So let's, do a preview here. Matt, I'll start with you. How do you see this fight going?
I see this being another classic. I think both of these ladies have the potential to put on a fantastic fight. Neither one of them are going to back down and make this an easy fight for either one of them. So, and both of them are really well-rounded fighters. So I could see this being a fight that makes it into the later rounds, championship rounds, if not go all the way to a decision. I think an early stoppage would be the biggest surprise of the evening for me. But I think this is an opportunity for Rose to really establish herself once again, obviously by becoming champion. And on the flip side, Weili Zhang saying, hey, nah, this is mine. I'm holding it down for China, that side of the globe, and UFC keep investing that money over here on my side and let me carry that flag. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how it plays out. But I like the matchup for all of the questions that it poses. And I'm sure we'll get to how you guys feel about how it plays out. But for me, there's a lot of intrigue because I could see it going either way, just on the surface.
Definitely a very difficult fight to try to handicap because they both have serious paths to victory. They're both extremely durable. We've seen them both go through a lot of wars, and I'm with Matt here. It's very hard to see this. It's easy to see it finishing in multiple ways, but one of those ways is not early. I don't think we're going to get a quick stoppage for either lady in this one. We're going to be in this for the long haul, and I want to temper my expectations because I am inevitably setting myself up for some level of disappointment. I think we all are. After the performance that Weili Zhang put on against Joanna Jedrzejczyk at UFC 248, and then you see how Rose matches up to her, and we see some of the wars that Rose has been in. We've seen her do amazing things as well, and it's like, man, this just feels like a mad scientist went to a laboratory and put together some chaos formula, and that's what we're going to watch. I'm really excited for this, and even as we speak right now, I have no idea how I want to pick a winner. Like, I just want us to talk it out, and then maybe an idea forms in my head. But this is going to be a fantastic fight.
Yeah, it's undeniably, a fantastic matchup. Just you can't really go wrong with any matchup at strawweight, if we're going to be totally honest. But this one is great. It is very similar to the Joanna matchup, I think, in the aspect that these are both two of the cleanest and quickest, strikers that the division has to offer. I mean, really, maybe that the sport just has to offer, considering the weight class and, very quick in general. Weili has looked tremendous throughout her whole career. Rose has looked excellent as time has gone on since she became champion. There's no reason to believe this fight won't be awesome. I like the point you guys are making about probably won't be quick. And, if I don't know if it means much, but I don't think Weili has finished a fight in the US, but that has been because her head coach hasn't been with her, even though I think he was for the Joanna fight. But if we're just going to go off of that and, play into those little funny factors, we can assume it'll probably go longer if there is going to be a finish or, a decision for either lady. So, yeah, awesome fight. Just really happy it's finally going to take place. It's been far, far too long since we got to see Weili and Joanna go at it over a year ago now.
Yeah, it's, again, the most highly anticipated matchup in the weight class. And I would agree with all of you. I doubt it's an early finish. I don't think this is going to be a Weili versus Andrade type of situation where she just comes out and ends up getting that finish quickly, or vice versa, where Rose lands a big shot like she did against Joanna the first time they fought. I definitely see it being a war. And there's a lot of, X factors here, especially with the way Rose, we've seen her have really kind of awkward footwork and great speed, as Drake has mentioned, that should keep her, on pace with Weili. as well as the fact that there's her ground game. When we're talking about, Weili fighting somebody who's really had a significant ground game and had an ability to get takedowns and do submissions, she hasn't really fought that opponent yet. I mean, she's technically 100% on her takedown defense, but that's against, one takedown each of people like Tecia Torres, Jessica Aguilar, things like that. Rose has a 50% takedown accuracy rate, and we've seen her land a takedown when she wants at any point in the fight. Even the Andrade fight where she kind of, fell behind after eating some big shots, she was able to get that takedown, wasn't able to keep Andrade there. But it's going to be interesting to see how, the champ reacts to a real ground threat this time around. So I'm very excited to see how this matchup plays out. With that in mind, let's go ahead and do predictions. We'll start the same way as before. Matt, who do you think wins this fight?
Oh man, I hate to do it, but I'm gonna say I think Weili Zhang keeps her title here. I think it's gonna be a close unanimous decision, but a very, very close fight. I don't know, it could be a split decision, but as well. But I'm gonna go decision. I'm gonna go with Ann Still. As much as I am a fan of Rose, I think the separating factor as the fight plays on will be Weili's power, and I think that that's going to be something that kind of keeps her ahead a little bit. As she, does. I could see Rose trying to engage in the grappling like you were talking about, Pat, because Rose, she's very sticky. She's got very sticky grappling. So if Weili tries to close in on her, I could see Rose trying to pull guard or trying to jump on her and just trying to lock up something and, make a submission happen. But I think if Weili plays it smart, she'll try to, just stick and move and do what she does best, blitzing in with those combos and getting out of the harm's way when it comes to the grappling. So I think decision win for Weili Zhang.
I'm going to go the opposite direction. I see a decision win for Rose Namajunas. I think if she especially can establish her grappling very early on, it's going to prevent Weili Zhang from really truly opening up with the striking. It's one thing to have a largely, primarily a kickboxing battle against Joanna and just open up with full power and just unleash a whole lot of strikes. It's another thing to do that against somebody who actually can fight on the ground effectively. So if Rose can make that presence felt right away, I mean, like in the first round at some point, tying her up in the clinch, maybe dragging her down, that right there should just be that shadow of a doubt that that Rose is going to need to capitalize, because I believe she'll have the speed advantage. She will not have the power advantage, but we've seen her fight people with big power and come out on top. I mean, and even though she did lose the first fight to Andrade, I mean, that was off of a pretty improbable slam. I think that Rose can avoid those danger spots like that against Weili, and I see her being able to just kind of box a little bit on the outside, get out, come back in when she needs to. And whenever those moments that Weili feels like the distance is closed and she really can do something, Rose can rely on her clinch, rely on some level of grappling to kind of slow that momentum down. So Rose by decision.
The really interesting thing to me, I think, about Weili in particular is that I think there are a lot of people in the division, Rose included, who are, probably able to be equal with her in certain areas of, the fight game and their skill sets. But it's either Weili has some, equal aspects of fighting with some other people, but then she's better than them. She's not exactly worse than anybody. I mean, okay, maybe there's Tatiana Suarez wrestling, like those kind of people. Never mind, let's throw that out. But, in this fight with Rose, like when it comes to the speed in the striking and the technique in the striking, I think it's probably pretty even, especially with the striking, and then technique edge, maybe very, very tiny to Weili, just because of the diversity in strikes she throws. Power, I think, goes to her. When it comes to killer instinct, though, this is something I always like to bring up when talking about Rose Namajunas, because she has really a very unique killer instinct that, we don't often see among the female fighters, and more particular, just the lighter you go in weight classes. And I think that Weili also a very good killer instinct, somebody who has plenty of finishes on her record. And you guys are talking a lot about the grappling too. And I think that is something where Weili has been perpetually underappreciated in that aspect, especially in the UFC. in particular, because, if we're going to be totally honest, a lot of people didn't know about her until she got to the UFC. But if you followed her career in Kunlun fights and, over in China before that, a lot of victories and a lot of performances saw her, utilizing and dominating with her ground game. She's just most known as a striker and most comfortable there, but she's got a very dangerous ground game in her back pocket. And I think that she could even surprise us and take the fight there against Rose before vice versa. And if Rose takes her down, I don't think she will keep her there. I think it'll be very competitive on the ground. We'll see definitely plenty of submissions thrown up from both people. Pat, you mentioned the Jessica Aguilar fight. Yes, that was a Jessica Aguilar who is, on the back end of her career at that time, and still is, but able to finish her with a triangle and just really dominate her completely on the ground in that fight. Very, very impressive. And we still have never, she's like the only person to have done that to Jessica Aguilar. Gadelia did, beat her on the ground as well, but not like that. That was very, very impressive. And that's just a glimpse at what Weili is capable of in the grappling in the UFC. We did see her use her grappling in the Tecia Torres fight as well, but she's been doing this her whole career. It's just people have not seen it yet. So I think there will be some fun in that regard of the fight. And another point I wanted to mention is, I spoke to Jessica Andrade actually on Tuesday, and asked for her prediction, and she thinks that Rose will win, but she mentioned something about the damage, that she thinks that Rose is capable of taking more damage than Weili, at least from what we've seen, and that has proven to be true. And she has taken a lot of damage, though. And yes, Weili took a lot of damage in that last fight in particular, but I don't think it's the same amount and as much as Rose has taken. If you look at the second Joanna fight to both Andrade fights, just a lot of trauma, to the head that Rose has taken. And in that third round, in the rematch with Andrade in particular, was not looking good for her. So I feel like with this matchup with Weili and having a whole year now to, recover, get back. I mean, from that fight, she hasn't been out for injury or anything like that, just training like a freak as she always does with everything else considered. I feel like the accumulation of damage is going to catch up in this one, and Weili will find a finish late in the fourth or fifth round, with maybe she hurts her on the feet, and then I could see a submission, but I think the champ will retain no matter what, but I'm going to predict specifically a late finish.
All right, so we've got 2 for Weili, 1 for Rose. Looking at this fight, it's one of those things where I hear what you're saying about Jessica Aguilar and Weili's ground game being underrated. I have seen some of her older fights where, yes, her ground game is definitely present. This is not a situation where you get her down on the ground and Weili doesn't know what to do. And she's just, struggling to kind of, deal with somebody on top of her, that type of thing. That's not what we're looking at here. I agree with that. But I would say again that, it's one of those things where I don't think that she's fought anyone with the grappling prowess that Rose has. And even if you look at Rose's second fight with Andrade, she took some big shots there, but she came back later in that round and almost took the round away. It was one of those things where, rewatching that just a couple days ago, she ate some shots, she was in trouble, but then she came back with some great counters. She used the takedown and the threat of the takedown to really put Andrade on the back foot, and it really ended up swaying the end of the round towards Rose more. I still think Andrade won the round, but it was a good adjustment on her part, and that's why I'm with Ant on this one, where I think the threat of the takedown, especially if she's able to take down Weili, consistently, even if she can't hold her there, if Weili's got to worry about, Rose coming in and at least getting her down, and even if it's doing a little damage and, Weili has to work her way back up, I think it's the threat that's going to be a problem for Weili moving forward. Because as you mentioned, everybody pretty much mentioned, in terms of speed and striking and even power, they're mostly equal, I would say. This is a on paper, everything looks pretty equal type of matchup. And I think by being able to use the ground game as a threat and feint the level changes, if Rose is able to do that efficiently, that's when she's going to end up landing some of those, combinations that could start to accumulate and wear on Weili Zhang. And it's possible with the damage she's taken, that Rose has taken, especially in her past couple fights, maybe her chin does give way and it's a finish for Weili, but I haven't seen enough, in that regard, especially rewatching the second Andrade fight, she was never really, too hurt. She was never even really wobbled that much. She was able to eat some of Andrade's biggest shots straight to the face and to the body. And I think that's something that, as long as that holds up, I think she's going to end up getting either a decision or a late round submission if she's able to wear Weili out by taking her down and just forcing her to, get back up over and over again. I could see the war of attrition possibly getting to Weili. So I'm going to go I'll say decision win for Rose Namajunas. So split panel here, 2-2. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to end up winning the fight, how you see this fight going, if our analysis is spot on, if it's off, anything we may have missed in terms of taking factors into consideration for this bout. Let us know all that. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification button. Regardless of who wins, let's just hope there's no crazy ass eye poke or, something that causes the fight to end, in a dumb way.